Hello and welcome to an impromptu IronGeek Cast, number 224. F it, we'll do it live. Hey there, Mr. Adrian.
How's
Hey
it
there,
going?
Miss Autumn. How you doing?
Well, that's okay.
Just okay? Been a rough week?
Yeah, people annoy the shit out of me.
That's why you got to get off the internet, man. Go deal with the real world for a while. Internet will just fuck with you.
Put away all the perishables.
Just 1 second there. Yes, dear, I did.
Okay.
So, yeah, I had to go grocery shopping. Sorry for the delay. I know I said 4 and then I said 5 and then I was late, but you know, life sometimes gets in your way. Dude, what's going on with you? Is DEF CON going on right now?
I believe so, but I'll be here shortly. I just don't care. A lot of people, I think, are a bit. There is an in-person stuff going on, but I understand a lot of people are doing virtual, and yeah, I just don't care.
Yeah, you finally gotten like eaten away a little bit at a time from all the people fucking with you all the time to the point where you just like fuck it.
Pretty much.
It was bound to happen sooner or later. I mean, you deal with quite a lot of abuse online. You know, you try and do good shit for the community, and all they do is bitch and whine and moan at you that you're not as politically correct as they'd like you to be. So they can just kind of go F themselves if they don't like you, you know? Like, nobody has done the kind of work you've done before. You put together the largest archive of InfoSec recordings out there that's ever been assembled, and yet people still give you shit because they don't like your politics, and they can just go fuck off, you know? Anyway, if you're looking for another job, I hear Casting Couches, you know, they're open, you know. No? All right. Worth a shot. All right.
So back and more paying attention. OCD is someplace else. I still enjoy a lot of, smaller cons, a couple thousand. That's some of the cons now. Yeah, smaller is generally better. Folks, if you want to keep your con somewhat friendly and nice, try not to get over 2,000 people.
Yeah. Well,
you're going to have fuck nuts then.
I think even the smaller cons attract some of the fuck nuts. So,
and you will have some of the pervy dudes at a bigger conference, regardless, unfortunately.
True.
I had one dude who's giving me shit, and he has a tendency to go around and follow women around conferences and count them and shit. I'm like, okay, this is some creepy ass behavior. I know you're trying to impress them, but
did you know there are just 5 more women at this conference than there were last year?
Yeah, you'd be much better off if he hit the fucking gym instead.
Well, then he'd be like the Iron Geek.
Well, I don't hit the gym as much as I used to. Actually, I haven't hit the gym in quite a while. I do a lot of hiking now, though.
Hiking's just as good. I mean,
no, it's not good as good for the upper body and so forth. It's not like I'm bouldering or anything. Now, if I was bouldering, there was a good argument there, I think, for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just getting out and working out at all is pretty good compared to not doing anything.
That is true. I have lost weight over the last 3 months or so.
I have not lost any weight. I have been traveling a lot and eating a lot of shit. And I went to Freedom Fest with Atheists for Liberty and FAIR. FAIR is an organization that's dedicated to eliminating intolerance and racism. Essentially, Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. And my friend was supposed to be running the booth, and he was not able to, so I ran the booth for him. And it was a lot, you know. I literally had to learn everything about the organization in like an hour, and then go out and answer everybody's questions.
Now, are they actually fair about what they consider to be a prejudice and what's not?
Yeah, they are not for critical race theory and things of that nature. They believe in the teachings of like Martin Luther King Jr. and essentially the early civil rights movement before they feel it got a little off track with the the writings of D'Angelo and some other people that seem to be wanting to go backwards rather than forwards.
Yeah, once D'Angelo comes out in a book, saying and basically says that she's racist, at that point you should go, maybe this isn't the person I should. Though I haven't personally read her books, I've only heard other people's synopses.
James Lindy, Peter Boghossian, and Helen Pluckrose did a rebuttal to that book called Cynical Race Theory.
Oh yeah, I know those guys from the and gal from the SoCal Square hoax. By the way, anybody who starts arguing with me on any of this shit online, until you actually have read about the SoCal Square hoax, shut the fuck up. All right, there's a lot of academia that is complete BS. The further you get away from pure mathematics, the more, well, how do you put it this way? As Lord Whitfield once said, all science is either physics or stamp collecting.
That's a good way to put it, I think.
And comp sci was my original degree, and when you get to the bottom of comp sci, it's basically mathematics. Although comp sci at a regional campus, they teach you a lot more hands-on stuff, I think, than they do other places. Though truthfully, the most stuff I do from day to day, I learned on the job working in a computer lab. And the security stuff, I got a security informatics degree, but most of my knowledge came from screwing around with computers online, and even more when I actually got professionally in it and got some things from other people. Though, tell you the truth, pen testing is an easy thing to burn out on, especially the report writing.
Yeah.
People think, I want to be a pen tester. I want to be a pen tester.
The report writing is the part that sucks.
It can't. Yeah, it's not as great as some people think. Maybe for some people, yes. But
it's thrilling when you're doing it, but if you're not documenting it while you're doing it, you're going to have a lot of trouble later when you're writing a report. What I've been doing lately is I just record myself while I'm doing a pen test, and then I come back later and I grab screenshots from the screen recording to make my life a little easier, rather than try and take screenshots as I'm doing stuff. Anyway, I also keep all my screenshots on the Windows box and do everything in the Linux VM. That way the screenshots end up on the Windows box if I do that. It makes life easier. I also got some cool tools to like turn an OpenVAS scan into a report. Make life a little less tedious with that shit. But that's really for VAs more than pen tests. I think when you can't get in doing a pen test is when it kind of turns into a VA plus, where it's like you do a VA and then do some validation to the findings. But then at the end, you're like, yeah, I didn't get in. And then you feel bad.
But that seems like be a whole lot of things. I wouldn't necessarily know where to try harder. A lot of people also, before they even hire someone to do a pen test, I mean, how much? I'm not sure how much the average pen test costs, but what is it, a year's license for Nessus? This is not the hosted version or anything. It's just under $3,000, I believe.
It's not cheap. And that's why everyone uses OpenVAS, but it's such a bitch to set up. If you're not using their ISO file, you want to get it running on Linux. You got to do you spend at least an hour just configuring it to work right. And the one that's built into Kali is like 3 versions behind. It doesn't work right. So just getting it up and running on the target network can be a bit of a bitch unless you've got a pre-built VM where you've already got it working well and tested out.
After doing it a few times, GVM's not so hard to install for me, but I have had problems with self-jorking itself. Like any update, and it goes, okay, I won't work now. Yeah. And this log file's here, and what's this IO mean? And it's not the clearest in the world. I like Nessus a lot better.
Nessus they're based on the same source code tree, and they both use the same signatures to find stuff. It's just that Nessus is prettier and it's easier to use, and it doesn't fuck up as much. But like, if you get down to the nitty gritty, if you're going to be writing a report for a client and you don't have a Nessus license, I mean, just do an OpenVAS scan and then putting it in like some report writer software that converts like the XML into something usable. Saves you a lot of time compared to manually going through each finding. And
that's probably good to look at that, because I do use GVM because I don't currently have the budget for well, it might, who knows. I'm working on trying to get Nessus necessarily, and I've used a few other ones before. I used whatever it was Rapid7 had out a few years ago.
Oh, Rapid7 was using the Metasploit thing. They had essentially you were doing scans, but it was automatically tossing Metasploit modules at stuff. What'd they call it? They called it Expose. Thank you.
So like that. I used that at one time. That was way long ago, and that seemed pretty good at the time. We're talking about like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
For stationary infrastructure that, not for a pen tester, but for someone that I'm supposed to take care of this business and scan its resources over and over again every week or however often and look at it. I've also used Qualys. Or someone told me I can't remember how she said it. She defined Qualys a certain way that very powerful with a very messed up interface.
That's a good way to. I've used it before. The interface does lack a lot as far as being intuitive. Once you learn how to use it, it's not that bad. But if you just put somebody in front of it and told them to run the scan, it would take them quite a while to figure out what the hell to do. Even with GVM nowadays, like you have to add the targets first, and then you got to go back once the targets are added, and then pick which set of targets you want to scan, rather than just put a list of IP addresses and say scan these. You know, it's little.
Yeah, for a pen tester, Nessus is just a lot better.
Agreed. The thing is, it's expensive. Just like Burp Suite Pro is a lot better than like OpenVAS. I'm sorry, Burp Suite Pro is a lot better than. Why am I blanking on the Z attack proxy, Zap? But a lot of people will use Zap or the free version of Burp because Burp costs like, I think, $300 a license. So they don't have the money for that. So they make do with these shittier tools that take longer. And the thing is, if you're going to use these shittier tools, it's just an exchange of your analyst time versus the, you're going to pay them more money to spend more time working on this. When you buy them a better tool, it's like cutting with a sharper knife. You get the results faster. You'll still cut the thing, but it'll just take longer to cut. Yeah. So, yeah, I actually was playing around with a while back trying to get GVM to install properly when they updated to this latest version. And I spent a while just putting together a bunch of scripts to do the install, because even when you follow their example step by step to install it on like Ubuntu 18.4 or whatever you want to install it on, you often get issues where the NVTs will not sync because they've now made it so that you have to have a feed user that is specified. And in order to do that, you have to run a bunch of commands to like get the UUID of that feed user and then set that UUID to be the one that receives the feeds. And that's not well described in their documentation, so everybody always misses it. So also when you're installing it, you have to switch between like the GVM user that you set up and then like the regular user. And you have to kind of like essentially lock down that GVM user. But then after it's locked down, you then have to have it run updates, which means you have to switch to the GVM user to run the updates and then go back to the other user to do other things. And it gets confused as to who owns what files and what directories. And you have to chmod a bunch of shit and get it working. It's just a pain in the ass. Anyway, I did get it working, and I have the scripts somewhere. I thought I put them on my GitHub here, but it appears I did not. So I was like, "Oh, yes, I did." Okay, yeah, it's been since March of last year since I've worked on this, but it does work at this point. It just took me a long time to get these fucking scripts to work. Here, let me show you what they look like. It's share screen. Boom, boom. All right, so these are the scripts I wrote, and essentially they all run from this master script, which is like install master here, and this one will first does like a little root check, and then it just runs each one of these scripts one after another. No error checking. If one fails, it goes to the next one, which I have to put in. I never got around to doing it. But these scripts, it's like so you got to drop to different user depending on what you're doing, and like in the context of this user, run these commands and stuff, and then. To download stuff, I don't know. It took me a while to figure out how to do this, but I finally got it working right. Now, all of these, essentially, you run the install master, and then it runs each script after another, and then at the end of it, it usually works. Sometimes it doesn't, and it still requires a little fucking around, but this tends to work for me now. I've automated it. So I have to install this thing quite frequently. But yeah. That's a lot of freaking scripting to do just to get shit working, And if you want, they have the GVM install. What was it called? Lazy Potato. I don't remember what the fuck the guy's name was. Anyway, somebody like detailed all the work that was necessary to install this thing, and I went through it and did it, and I scripted it, which is what you do in the industry.
I don't even have to do that much work to get it on. I mean, a little bit of problems, but it wasn't the install that was the problem for me. Most of the time I've used GVM. It's been upgrading later on and having something break.
Right. I found out Orcus Rat recently. It's published a while ago, but I just found the code for it, and that's kind of cool shit. This whole database here, this like GitHub thing, is a bunch of rats. and most of them still work. They're like not neutered, so I found it very interesting. This guy has a really good list of stuff. So anyway, I came across it, and it's not just like a listing. There's a lot of source code for rats in there. I'm surprised Microsoft really allows that, considering they own GitHub now, and they tend to shut down people who host things like rats, but they're still there. This right here is a pretty good tutorial for Nick2 for people who've never used it before. Nick2 is a great tool if you're doing like some preliminary assessment of on a web server. Like you want to know what technology the server uses and if it's running anything that's vulnerable. You run Nick2 against the server. And if you run a Windows box, you could actually run the subsystem for Linux. You know, you go over and you do that. And then you could have Nick2 run on this version of Linux as well, even though the networking is a little wonky with this. And you can do that as well. And like, you know, Nick2 dash, what is it, dash URL, I think. Is that it? Yeah. Dash URL. And then it runs, and it's like, oh, that redirects here, but it shows you what the site's using and stuff. And before you use it for the first time, you should edit the config file and change the user agent. Otherwise, anybody who's looking at the server logs is going to see that you're running Nick2 against it. But as far as like very easy tools, this is a really good one. It's part of the pen test framework, but you know, it's a good tool to use and know. For those who are not good enough to know Burp Suite and like the other more advanced tools for doing web apps, that's a good way to just kind of take a look at some of the automated stuff that like low hanging fruit that may be out there. You ever play with Nick2?
Yeah, in the past.
Yeah, it's a good tool. What the heck did I want to cover today? You know, so like there's this site that is let me just find it.
I'm gonna add this to the playlist since we're actually having it today. If we're gonna do this, is there a certain time of day that's best for everybody? Unfortunately, since you're now out there on the West Coast, I realize that what's good for us on the East Coast, you know.
Yeah, I try and make it work. It's just sometimes a little difficult with.
Okay, I think it's still going. He appears to have dropped off. So this is me with a very blurry looking camera, and I'm not sure why, because it actually is should be a pretty good webcam built in here. And I think I just smudged it more. I needed alcohol wipes and okay. Hey, it's like a de-aging blur.
You look great there, Adrian. It's never looked better. You're like a blob.
My buddy Jason sent me a handkerchief that's got. Oh, wait, I gotta get in frame right. This is the way with a bunch of little baby Yodas on the other side.
Oh, it's very foggy.
I know his name is Groku. I'm still calling him Baby Yoda. Oh, that's a lot better.
That is a lot better.
See, Jason, it's already coming in handy.
I take it that's not Jason Street since you and him are not buddies anymore.
Let's not say people's names like that, man.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Hey, man, I'm trying not to say shit in public, unlike some other motherfuckers. No. Jason, you know, nearby you.
Oh, I love that guy. He has not. Yeah, I hope he's doing well. I gotta reach out to him. I haven't seen him in a few weeks. I've been traveling and stuff. His knife business is doing really well, from what I hear. Yeah. He
sent me a while back a little Victronox paring. I think I'm not sure which classification it is. I think a paring knife.
Mm-hmm.
Sharpened up, and it's pretty nice. I didn't even know Victronox made anything other than Swiss Army knives.
Yeah, they make a lot of the knives he puts the handles on. He just goes with the Victronox as the blade because they're really well done and like they sharpen really good. So he tends to use those.
Well, this would be a question for Mark more than anybody, but there's a certain brand of knife, and I know I got one just because everybody was like everything so much. I can't remember what they're called. There's a certain type of, I want to say it's like a Swedish knife that you can get a really affordable one, and they're actually pretty good. And I don't remember what it's called now. Yeah.
Victorinox is the only Swedish one I think I know of.
This is something different. A lot of survivalist prepper types use it. I bought one of the cheaper models just for the hell of it, and it was pretty nifty. I wish I had it on with me, but I have my gear in a different room, and I now can't even remember what it was. It was like someone said, "Buy this." I'm like, okay.
Well, since I didn't have time to like do any show notes, I'm just going to kind of steal from somebody who does a show called This Week in Security. His name is Zach Whitaker. So I'm just going to kind of steal his notes and use them for our cast, if that's okay with you. I don't think he'd mind.
I guess I don't know how much I'm going to talk about though.
I say we go for another 20 minutes. How's that work for you?
That looks fine for me. I need to get more sleep. When I sleep, my brain doesn't run. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can understand that. I
have nice, happy dreams of Crystal Lake.
Crystal Lake. I seem to have pissed off StreamYard, and it's not letting me click in any windows. So just give me 1 second here to fix that. StreamYard is like, nope, you shall not click in anything. No clicks for you. Anytime you try to click anything on this window, you're just going to get a beep, and I'm not going to tell you why. Oh, there we go. Found it. Okay. So I'm going to do share screen. There we go. Do not want to share that screen.
Got some tobacco-flavored vape here.
All right. There we go. So let's put that one on. Tobacco-flavored vape. You got to try the nicotine salts. That stuff's excellent.
That stuff's okay. I've never tried those. Because my understanding for read up on it, it's not the nicotine that's so dangerous. It's even though it is technically a poison. I mean, they use it on in gardening sometimes. It's everything else.
Yeah.
Mostly, I just find watching the vapor roll off being soothing. And one time, I tried to blow smoke rings. Never could successfully do it on purpose. But then one day, accidentally, I did.
Ooh, I've never been able to whistle even. I cannot whistle to this day, and I'm 40.
I can't whistle well. I can sort of whistle while sucking in. That doesn't sound right. I'm not particularly good at whistling either.
Yeah. So you remember the Pegasus malware they were talking about a few weeks ago? That thing that NSO group from Israel put out, where they were using it to get into the journalists' phones and like heads of state, and essentially it was like some custom built malware that was. It had like a module. If you hadn't patched your iPhone, it pretty much compromised the iPhone with just a text message with nobody even clicking it. Right? It had a bunch of 0 days built into it, and essentially they've been able to identify a bunch of IP addresses and phone numbers that were being targeted by the Pegasus group. Essentially the people who are using this NSO group malware, and it is interesting. It's a cool read. Washington Post. Unfortunately, is the one who wrote the article, but it's also on Amnesty and Guardian, very similar articles. Next, I got MVT. It's a toolkit for checking Pegasus infections.
Oh, by the way, this is something, and I'm not going to say why this is a reminder. You can ask me after the cast, but never invite a journalist into any semi-private group.
Well, what if they were only a journalist when they were in college?
No.
Well, I guess I'm getting kicked from a lot of groups. All right. So Amnesty.
No, we love you.
What?
We love you.
I know. So Amnesty International and GitHub kind of got together, and they published on GitHub a toolkit called MVT, Mobile Verification Toolkit. Essentially, you dump your phone into a file, and then you have this toolkit check that file. It works a lot better on iOS than a lot better on Android than it does for iOS images, but it can check both, which is cool. So if you are paranoid that somebody might have access to your phone, then that's a good way to kind of go through it and figure out if it's rootkitted. And then apparently somebody from Dubai, the ruler, their phone number was on the list of compromised phones that was found. The same NSO group leak stuff we were talking about previously. Chinese government is recruiting cyber criminals to attack Western targets. So essentially, remember the Exchange server vulnerability that was really big? Well, which one? One of those three that was big earlier this year. Well, they're essentially training people to use that and try and just pop as much stuff in the West that they can. They're also going after specifically Ebola research and other high tech intellectual property stuff. These guys went to jail for doing that, And the House terminates the iConstituent contract after there were some security issues. This was a platform used by House offices to access constituents' information. It was riddled with security issues and also suffered a ransomware attack. And they're not using that anymore. Catholic Church official has resigned after cell phone data tracked him to being on Grindr. It's kind of, I mean, any other job in the world, it would be perfectly fine if somebody were gay and using Grindr. But as a Catholic priest, I guess that's just no, you know. This sort of story is rather creepy when you think about it, that they're weaponizing app data that people are not supposed to normally be able to see. A lot of the times, if you learn how to use the API, you can get information that you would not otherwise be able to get as a regular user, especially with undocumented APIs in like Android apps. So what this person did, who wrote this article, I believe, not the person who wrote the article, but the technology used, essentially using undocumented API calls to get the phone numbers of all people listed on Grindr who are within a certain geographic radius of the zip code that you put in. So data you would not normally be able to get, but you could with some under the hood stuff. So yeah, they tracked them. They found out there was a priest on there. Who cares? I mean, at least he's not molesting little kids, right?
Yeah, as long as it's two consenting adults, I don't give a shit.
Exactly. The TSA issues a second directive for pipeline operations amid pipeline concerns. This was in response to what happened with the Colonial Pipeline. There are new directives. They try and essentially secure things so that China won't have as much low-hanging fruit to go after. I mean, 13 of these pipelines were compromised. 3 had near misses, and 8 were hit. And they didn't even publish how badly they were hit. The ironic part about the pipeline attack was they went after the billing system. So pipeline operations were still available. They just decided not to deliver gas because it would have cost them money and they wouldn't be able to bill people. So that whole thing where it's like, oh, the pipeline's down. Nah, oil was still flowing. It was just the billing system that was down. Next, Kaseya obtains the REvil decryptor and starts customer data recovery operations. So Kaseya was an MSSP, and they used some proprietary remote desktop management solutions for their clients, and that particular solution was popped. And as a result, all the people who had their services with this MSSP got their own networks infected. So now they have purchased the decryptor and are going to be decrypting those clients' data. Which also kind of, why would they pay for it? You know, it's like I get there aren't any other ways to recover it sometimes, but paying for it just encourages these guys to continue the crap. And a gun owner's worst fears are realized after a firearms dealer has a database breach. And these are hundreds of thousands of people in the United Kingdom who are gun owners. And it was posted onto the dark web after a security breach at the firearms website. So now everybody knows who's got a gun when they probably shouldn't have them there. Clearview AI raised $30 million from investors despite their legal troubles. And they are very controversial in that they would sell to law enforcement offices, essentially the AI that's used to recognize faces. So they could put out cameras in the streets and be able to see like, oh, that guy jaywalked. China uses Clearview. Essentially, it's a social credit type thing. Like, oh, that guy jaywalked, reduces social credit. Well, here they were going to use it to just track criminals where they're going. And it's kind of a big invasion of privacy if they're just going to track everybody with their faces. So the investors themselves don't want even people to know that they're the investors. So that's how sketchy it is. What do you think about that? Would you want to just go outside and have freaking cameras pointed at you and watching everything you're doing all the time? It's like Big Brother shit, man.
Not necessarily. I'm kind of coming around to where cameras are and what public cameras are being used for. For instance, if budgets could allow, I would like all police to have body cams.
Yeah.
I think people be against that.
Because some people are very deluded.
And I'm not saying the cops being against it. I'm saying people who aren't cops.
Right. There are people. I don't see what the argument for that would even be. It's like, I don't want to be recorded when a cop might be doing something bad. It's like, Of course you want to be recorded.
Because they might be doing something bad too.
Right. Well, I mean, true. But
how often you see a video come out and after the fact, after a big news stories come out, and then, oh, wait, we finally released the body footage cam. Oh, okay, that motherfucker was lying.
It does happen, though.
It does happen. Yeah, both ways happen. But I was seeing a spate of like politicians who it wasn't for a body cam.
that poor officer probably would have gotten in a lot more trouble.
Yeah. Well, what about like the thing that happened in the news with like Covington Catholic, where it was like we only a small portion of that video, and everybody hated those kids.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
the real video came out, which was a lot longer, and you realized they were not the aggressors at all, and they were just kind of standing their ground as they were being like annoyed, you know.
I had a friend on Facebook at one time. He would jump on whatever the cause du jour was that someone was upset about, and like, and it come out later on, we got the facts entirely wrong. He was blaming somebody for something. And it was like, actually, if you look into it, this guy made this shit up, and he got some innocent person attacked because they went looking for someone who they thought was of a particular group, and they said, "Oh, there's a guy who has like an American flag shirt on. He must be of that group." And they, I think, accosted that dude. But he wasn't anything involved with even who they were targeting, and who they were targeting wasn't even involved in what they were upset over.
Right. And speaking of just cameras and like not just being on police, but being everywhere. There's this organization called SIA, and they kind of like make sure that security cameras and stuff are secure before they go to mass market. And Hikvision, which is one of the largest manufacturers of IP cameras, just left that organization because they felt that they were being bullied by being told that they had to secure their older cameras and stuff. And like they said, well, we're not going to do that, and we're just going to leave this organization that says our cameras are secure, rather than deal with all of the nuance of having to patch old IP cameras and making sure that they're not being abused.
Now, how do you feel about cameras in the classroom?
That's a tough one.
I have mixed feelings about it, but
it shouldn't be necessary unless the school has such of an issue with violence that I think it becomes necessary.
Well, it's not even violence they're worried about in this case. I'm talking about not even in the hallways, because most violence, at least when I was back in grade school, happened in the hallways. I'm talking about in the class doing class.
Oh, yeah, I would not be a fan of that when I was as a student. I personally wouldn't have been a fan of that.
Teachers really don't like it.
I can't believe. Well, and then every now and then we have the shit like that one teacher who wanted to teach critical race theory and was ranting on Tumblr that she couldn't teach critical race theory to her students. And, oh, look, somebody's actually commenting on stuff, which is funny because Pegasus very infectious aim for iPhones. How do you know what the crypto? Isn't it still unclear where they got it? And there is something called NSA that taps into every cam. Yes, there is an NSA. Well, the thing is, NSA doesn't tap into every cam. They're not Batman, but the NSA certainly.
They find a lot more stuff than people realize, and it slowly got revealed to us, and no one really. I mean, there's some people that care, of course. You got your Greg Greenwalds out there, and your Snowdens out there, but really, all things considering what's happening, if you had gone back into like the 80s and said all this shit was happening and revealed it all at once, that would be a thing. Now, granted, a lot of that stuff was post 9/11, and also it kind of weirds me out when I see groups like the EFF put out the threat model has changed. I think that was the phrase they used, and they had a picture of Trump looking all menacing. I'm like, they've been spying on us for a long ass time. It at least starts with George W. Bush. Obama certainly continued the shit. Then Trump, people under him were doing this shit. And, of course, we're doing it now, too. Now, how much any of the presidents know of what everything's happening at the various three-letter agencies, I don't know. But it's not like it's a new thing.
Yeah, not at all.
I'm not saying it's not bad. I'm just saying when people start blaming like,
yeah. I think there was something to be said when they said those who are willing to trade freedom for convenience.
I think it was.
Well, no, I fucked up.
I think those who are willing to trade freedom for safety deserve neither.
Yeah, there you go, man.
I think I've heard that attributed to Ben Franklin, but I'm not sure that's correct.
Yeah, that's probably a Franklin quote.
I'm not saying it's not. I just don't remember for sure.
Yep. So the happy corner here. There's some fun shit that happened on Twitter. This is some solid OPSEC defenses here. If you're against Russia, use a Russian keyboard. If you're against the NSA, use a U.S. phone number. Against China, put some random Chinese characters in your bio. Against the U.S., change your legal name to U.S. Person 1. It's all slowly coming together. And then this was pretty funny from Matt Blaze, who I don't think I like, but he goes, was woken up this morning by a knock at the door by the FBI, which is a particularly invigorating way to start the day. Before I could even start with the I want to talk to my lawyer speech, it turned out a neighbor was just applying for a security clearance. Also, I resisted the urge to start with. I was wondering how long it would take you to find me.
Yeah, I find all that stuff nerve-wracking. I've been through a security clearance thing once to get a clearance for a job I never ended up taking, and a lot of the processing's kind of silly. I mean, the lie detector thing. They asked me, "Have you studied how to beat a lie detector?" Well, not exactly intentionally, but I saw an episode of Penn and Teller's bullshit about it.
Yep.
I don't really believe it's mostly all about an extra interrogation technique to make you admit shit. Because when I was in there, they said something about I flagged, I believe, on terrorism and something else. And I'm like, no, of all the things I was worried about, that was not one of them because I had no connection to anything. So I was like, it was an interrogation technique. And also, I know when they doing the interviews, I screwed up and I ended up having to call the person who was trying to get me through the process, and let them know, oh yeah, when you asked me about foreign nationals, I forgot about saying this person, this person, this person, and this person. InfoSec, I mean, I knew a bunch of people who were Indian citizens, and I knew a bunch of people who were like Israeli citizens, and who knows where all else. I have a friend down on Facebook down in Brazil, and he's always posting really cool-looking memes in Portuguese, which I sometimes have to ask him, okay, this looks like it's incredibly funny, but can you translate for me?
Yeah, they should have a program, an app. This auto train. Ooh, live hand grenade. Yeah, launch it. Ooh.
Not a dummy. I got it at a Army surplus store up in Bedford, Indiana.
Oh.
Man, my hair is going wild today.
Dude, me and my friends over at Atheists for Liberty went shooting in South Dakota. It was a lot of fun.
I've never seen a suppressor on a shotgun before. And you'd think I'd have seen one of those because I'm not exactly.
I didn't even get to shoot that gun. I literally grabbed it for the picture because I thought it looked cool.
Oh, it's kind of cool. Though I don't know how far practical. I'm also kind of curious, how much did it actually silence a shotgun, though? That's an awfully big bore, and I wouldn't think it'd be very efficient at it. But I don't know. I've never shot. Actually, I haven't shot anything with a suppressor on it.
Yeah, it still had a lot of kick, but it was not nearly as loud as it was the one identical twin brother without suppressor. I didn't get to shoot that one; somebody else did. I got to shoot the Tommy gun, and the AK-47 and the Suppress 22 little pea shooter. That thing's a lot of fun. It jams a lot, which is annoying as fuck. But when you shoot it, it's like this. There's no what is it called?
Recoil.
There's no kick, no recoil whatsoever. You just go bing, 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 bing. It's great.
Yeah, most 22s are not too bad. You know what model 22 it was?
No, I don't remember. I just remember it had a nice little suppressor on it. It was a lot of fun.
I know a lot of people like. I think it's the Ruger Woodsman. Is that what it's called? There's one that's. This is the reason I want Mark here. Most of my firearms I inherited.
Yeah, most of mine. They were destroyed in a shipping accident long ago.
A question: the Tommy and the AK you shot, were they full auto or semi?
Full, and they actually encouraged you to not burst fire. They were like, "Hey, just let it out." Because one, they sell more ammo that way, which makes them more money, and two, it's they don't have to supervise you as long if they just let you go full auto and then you're out, your mag's out like a second later. That
doesn't take long with either of those two guns.
Yeah, well, it was a lot of fun. I'll give them that. I had not been shooting for a long time. I used to shoot like right out of high school, but since then it's been a long time. You
fire a Glock 18?
No, but I fired a Glock 19.
Yeah, think something very similar. It's a little closer in size, I guess, to a Glock 17, which is a Glock 19 is basically a little bit more complex. 17. I know someone who's bigger on the guns than I am is going to be totally bitching a fit about that comparison. But yeah, the Glock 18 is basically like a Glock 17 but full auto, and even with like an extended mag, deep, it's gone. I don't know how practical that actually is.
Well, I don't think it's so much practical as it's fun at the range.
Well,
I mean, if you get that one shot and you know it's good, and you just pull it again in the same spot, and you're gonna get,
I live about, I think, 45 minutes away from Knob Creek gun range, and I think I don't know how often a year they do the big machine gun shoots, but it is loud as hell when you're out there, because people bring out things like cannons and miniguns and other whacked out shit besides just fully automatic stuff. My buddy Mikey, he rented out one of these things called American 100. You ever seen one of those? Or maybe it's American 120. It's a 22 caliber full auto drum fed gun. The idea was they were developing it for the police so that you could spray a lot of fire, but it wouldn't penetrate too far. And they thought about using it for car chases and shit. I'm not sure how practical that actually was, but as far as cheap full auto guns to shoot at Knob Creek, that was one of the better ones. I know they have Tommy guns and so forth. I just haven't done it.
Well, I went with the 22 because the ammo was super cheap for the 22. Because one, the thing jammed all the time, and two, the ammo was like $10 for a whole thing of it. And when all the other ammo, like even the Glock 19 ammo, was like I think the cheapest box was $28. And I mean, if you're gonna be shooting for a while, it kind of like it's a lot easier to just little pea shooter and have fun than when I was doing the shotgun. That was like 5 shots for I think $10. It's not a lot, And I really wanted to shoot the Cattleman revolver. Unfortunately, they didn't have any ammo for that at all. And they said they could have bought ammo for it, but it would have been almost $1 a shot, and nobody wants to pay that to shoot.
What kind of caliber is the Cattleman?
It was an 1873 Cattleman revolver. It was authentic, like the original one. It was, they had them.
What caliber is that? Like, is it take any kind of standard cartridge?
I don't think so. I think it's some kind of specialized ammo.
Okay.
I mean, it's a revolver. It's not like a, the other guns that we have.
Automatics.
Automatics.
That does become a confusing name for other people. But yeah, auto loaders versus revolvers. I have several revolvers that my uncle had. 44 Magnum's a lot of fun. Totally impractical, the one I have, because it looked. Have you seen that gun in the first Batman movie that Tim Burton made?
No.
The Joker pulls out this long ass revolver with a barrel like huge. This one is not that long by any means, but it looks. At this point, you might as well carry a rifle.
I found it. Let me show you. Share. Share screen. That one. Yep. That's great. Can you imagine walking around with that thing in your pants? It's like freaking being a tripod.
Yes, I think. Is it Smith & Wesson Model 28?
That's insane.
I think that's what it is. Whatever the Dirty Harry's gun was.
I like it. I have the 44 mag that I have.
I'm wrong.
So Dirty Harry shot a 44 mag, and Smith & Wesson, I think 44. I have a replica of that. That's what I got. But it's not. It doesn't fire like ammo. It fires BBs, but it looks just like a 44. If you were to not know any better.
Oh, Wendy makes a note about back in the day, people used to make their own ammo. My uncle used to do that. Unfortunately, after he passed away, I sold that stuff off because I didn't think I was ever going to use it. Little did I know, about 3 years later, a pandemic was going to hit and ammo prices were going to skyrocket.
Yeah, in this movie, News of the World, there's a scene where this little girl and him, they're in a shootout, and he's trying to save her life, and she grabs all of his spent casings, and she starts loading quarters into them, and then he starts pumping gunpowder into the gun, because it's one of the old ones where you did it that way as opposed to, and he was actually shooting the bullets that were just filled with, like, quarters, which I thought was genius.
And expensive.
Expensive, yes. But when it's really your life on the line, I think it's rather waste money than... You know?
Something you could have. I mean, that was in News of the World. This looks like a restaurant.
It's like a Western. He's taken this little girl who he found along the road back to her home, which is states away. The wagon had been attacked and like the people on it killed, and apparently she was rescued from a Native American reservation where the natives had been taking care of her after her parents were killed. So she only knows like Native American language stuff, and he's like trying to get her home, but she doesn't understand his language. And it's a really cool movie. I watched it on the plane the other day as I was flying back from somewhere, but I liked it. There's this really cool scene. I don't know if they'll have it in the trailer or not. Probably not. They're gonna make me watch an ad to watch a trailer.
Especially back then, think of how much. So, like, how many dollars in quarters did he shoot, and how much could he have bought with those dollars back in, I don't know, what was this happening, the 1880s?
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, probably 1880s. His job was he would go from town to town reading the news, and It's not going to show me that scene. News of the world ammo with coins. Maybe it'll show me that way. Nope. YouTube sucks. Well, DuckDuckGo for YouTube search sucks at least. News of the world coins shotgun. There we go. These assholes want to rape that little girl, and he's trying to protect her. And they get to the point like, see, he's only got birdseed. See? Put some quarters in the bird seed, in the bird shot. Booyah. Yeah. That's really freaking cool because, like, this guy, oh, he gets shot. He gets shot. Anyway, I think that's freaking cool, though, to put quarters into buckshot. That's clever. We can get some slugs, Adrian, and we can get some buckshot. And then we can just put some slugs in the buckshot. And then we can have bullets again. There, I just solved the bullet crisis. Okay. Anyway, that's all that I got show note-wise. You got anything you want to talk about this week?
Can't say that I do. Just working on my OCD and probably going to conk out before long. I've been getting to sleep really early recently and then trying to get up to do something. I need to start hitting the gym again. Not that I don't have equipment home, but I've been getting up and maybe going hiking or something like that. There's a little golf course nearby that also has a community park with a nice, almost 3-mile wooded trail that you can do.
Oh, that sounds neat.
It's nice. See a lot of turtles and deer out there.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Nathan's watching. Nathan, I told you I met your friend Erica on the plane. She's very cool. She was coming back from Freedom Fest as well, and we realized we had some mutual friends in common, and your name came up, and she speaks very highly of you. She's you at a lot of the really good crypto events. So yeah.
Well, that reminds me of a sad story I read recently about a crypto event, but that's something maybe for off air.
Off air for sure. We don't want to kill the mood. Apparently glass is also deadly, so that's good to know.
Yeah, I don't know if it would carry as far as lead though, or even steel. But yeah,
well, yeah, just put some arsenic or something in it. Yeah, there you go.
Or carry as far as, and it doesn't have enough weight to like try sometime to shoot a styrofoam bullet.
Yeah, that would not go so well. Yeah. It needs a little weight to it. I think that's why the quarters worked in the buckshot, because it's got the weight to it,
But quarters being worth a whole lot more back then, $1, being worth a lot more back then, I would still think you could find a more efficient way of loading a shotgun or something with like screws or something. Yeah. I haven't done any improvised loads. There's a channel on YouTube called, I think it's like Deflator Mouse. And they shoot all sorts of weird exotic ammo out of shotguns on that channel. And they'll do things like bolo rounds that have like a string, a wire between two balls. I think they had limited effectiveness, that flechette rounds, various improvised rounds that they make. But it's a pretty cool channel. I think it's called Deflator Mouse, but I could be totally mispronouncing it or misremembering the name.
Oh, cool. I will try and find that and check that out.
If you can't find it, let me know, and I'll go find it for you.
All right. I'm going to end the broadcast here. Thank you guys for tuning in to this impromptu episode of the IronGeek Cast. We will be back next week at our regularly scheduled bat time and our regularly scheduled bat channel.
Well, maybe a different time. We don't know because we need to determine that.
Just keep an eye on Adrian's Twitter account, and he will let you know. And also, if you don't subscribe to him on Twitter, subscribe to him on Twitter, and you can have all your woke friends yell at you for doing so. It will be fun either way. All right. Have a great night, everybody. Be well.
Be well.